Mr. Woods, are you here? Somebody's not. Mr. Woods, are you present and attended for and accounted for?
I am. I can hear you now. You were guys been muted for a while.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Hit all the buttons.
All right, we have a quorum, it appears. All right, approval of agenda, special meeting, any changes anyone needs to make to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Motion by Deputy Mayor Rada, second by Councilor Gonzalez. Any discussion on approving the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries unanimously. We'll open it up for.
Can I just make a friendly amendment to the roll call?
Yeah.
I should have asked for Mr. Brown from the PMBC.
Oh, okay.
And I also should have asked for Mr. Ferry and Ferry, Susan, is spelled Ferri.
Okay, very good. All righty, public participation, because it's a special meeting, it's limited to agenda items only. If you'd like to speak in public participation, step up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. If you're on Zoom, use the raise hand function and we'll alternate between in the room and over Zoom.
There's nobody on.
No. Seeing none, there was no email correspondence about this either. Any remarks from council or permanent municipal building commissioners on public participation? None. No business, no minutes from previous meetings. And moving right on to consideration of new business. Item A, review statement of need and general discussion for Chapman Street facility.
So Steve, do you want to take it over?
Sure, Jonathan. As you know, the new permanent building, permanent municipal building committee is up and running. We've had, I believe, 3 meetings, 2 actually official meetings and 1 meeting, which was a tour. We're talking about the dog pound first, correct?
Chapman Street.
Chapman Street. I'm sorry, Chapman Street. So obviously the old Company 3, Chapman Street, the fire department, historical building, which I don't think is actually on the historical landmark, but I think to all of us in Newington, it's something that we definitely want to make sure we save and preserve the best we can. It's fallen into disrepair. Needs some renovations. From what I understand, there's some money set aside to allow that to happen. And you've charged this committee to make that, make the recommendations back to you, how to best renovate that building for future use. Again, I know the town has many, many needs for storage. Fire department obviously has needs for storage. They probably have some urgent needs because of the work that will be going on at Company 4 when that moves forward. So we probably should think in at least the short term of what we do there can accommodate the fire department, at least initially. And then after Company 4 is done, we could take a look at, we meaning you, the council, or you direct the building committee to go back and take a look at it to see what other uses there could be. The building is only 2,000 square feet, so there is, a limited amount of space on that site. There was some preliminary drawings that were done that makes the building look 1,000 times better than it does right now. It's your typical municipal building that falls into, I don't want to call it disrepair. It's just aged. I mean, the building is very, very old. The fire department moved out for a while, and I think there was somebody renting the space from the town. And if I remember right, I don't even know if it was paying rent. I think they were making repairs to the building. But even that's like 10, 15 years ago. So those, even those repairs that were made and a small addition that was put on needs to all be brought up to date. It's not a difficult project. I don't think it's a very expensive project. And I think that's one that will definitely benefit the town as a whole, and benefit the fire department in the short term, and in the long term. We can discuss that with you as a council to see how you would further like to utilize that building. And with that, I guess I'll take any questions. And I know the problem is I can't see who's in the audience, but I know that I believe Stan Sobieski is there.
Yep.
And who else is there, Jonathan? Can you help me? Who else?
Yeah, so all of the members of the PMBC are here except for Donald Brown and Chris Ferry, Joe Salamone, Lauren, and then we have 5 or 6 members of either the Fire Commission or Chief Traumer and Deputy Chief Regina, and Tom LaPierre is there. I think that's everybody.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know how I want to work it, but I probably best I open it back up now to you, to the council, if you are okay with that for your questions. And then again, the building committee can jump in. I am not, I'm the chairperson, but I'm not the leader of this group. We work as a unit. And our goal is to fix whatever you tell us needs fixing.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. So yeah, I'll open it up. Questions from council? I know I'll have a few, but I'll let some people go ahead in case you ask it. Councilor Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Steve and the commission for all your work so far on this project. I just have one question, which is about, I guess, the needs for the space. And you alluded to this a little bit, right? That there are different space needs that the town has, that the fire department has. I guess, could you just walk us through a little bit, and perhaps this is a question for Joe, who I see is in the audience too, or for the members of the fire commission who might be here. But just walk us through a little bit about what either entity kind of envisions this building accommodating in terms of those needs.
Okay. Again, I think in the short term, just because I know what we're doing with Company 4, and I don't know of any other space available, and this was a fire department, so it will house at least one vehicle now, and probably with a little bit of work, we could get another vehicle in there temporarily. And then after that point, I would have to sit down with the town manager, Joe Salamone, and make a determination on, where the building ends up. There's also plans down the road to rehab Company 3. There's some additions that need to be put on there and brought that firehouse up to date. So at that point, if everything is done that fits and suits the fire department's needs, maybe they don't need that building anymore. And it can be used for another purpose. But I think short term, and again, I'm just making a suggestion here. This is by no means something written in stone. I think it would probably be best utilized, it's because it's going to take a little bit of while to get our renovations done, to coordinate it with the rebuild of Company 4. And then after that, we could hold some other discussions. But, you know, you've got Joe Salamone came to our meeting, our last meeting, and I mean, the list goes on. His physical plant, all the vehicles that he has are scattered around in different areas throughout the town, I believe. There's not one central localized place. The senior center has needs as far as storing their vehicles. And Joe, if you'd like to come up and share some of the other needs so that the council can get your perspective, I think that might be appropriate at this time, so they can get an idea of, you know, what's coming down the road.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Well,
Thanks, Joe.
Good evening. Yes, as Mr. Woods explained, we met at their last meeting. Not sure if you had a chance to watch the meeting or read the meeting minutes, but we incorporated all the town's needs for a garage type space at a high level, without getting into too much detail in that meeting. I don't know if short-term or long-term goals were identified or expressed explicitly as to where the need would be most valuable, but from the town's point of view, we have quite a few frontline vehicles that remain outside on a regular basis, 365 days a year. Our 4 dial-a-ride vans remain outside every day. They're used on a regular daily basis. I think that building is an ideal candidate for that garage, or for a garage space for that service for the town. The police department has indoor impound needs, specifically when it comes to certain investigations. Sometimes vehicles are housed for many months at a time, and they are constantly juggling where things can be put and moved around so they can accommodate that investigation. We have a mobile command unit that's stored at a bay in the garage, in the grounds garage at the Parks and Grounds garage on Willard, excuse me. We also have an MRAP storage, MRAP vehicle that's stored in the sign and traffic division, kind of stuffed in there and takes some of the space away from those needs as well. The facilities department currently occupies 2 bays in the transportation garage. From when they did this building, they moved that department down there. It's really a bay and a half. We have a small 10 by 10 plywood box that the guys use as an office. And then we jam everything we can in the other bay and a half. That's our workshop, that's our storage. No running water. You know, we use the bus garages facilities for that. Our vehicles remain outside as well. And then if there's inclement weather coming, we try to jam them in, and then we borrow a 3rd space from the bus garage to get the rest of our stuff in. So there's a definite need there. Fire marshal's office and emergency management has vehicles that remain outside as well. The vehicles are on call and are ready for a response. So impending weather is always a challenge. We had to park one of the fire marshal vehicles under the overhang at the senior center to try to keep it out of the weather with this last big storm. In the event that it had to go out, the time wasn't being used to clear it and what have you. Same thing with emergency management. They have a couple of vehicles that remain outside. So for a dry storage space like Chapman Street, all those needs would be important. Highway department has a ton of seasonal equipment that they can continuously jockey around: leaf machines, jet trucks, rollers. There's not enough storage at the Milk Lane site. So we could use the space at Chapman Street for some of those implements and equipment. Their sandbags or coal patch, the eviction storage. So we're required to have eviction storage for that process that happens here in Newington. We currently use sea cans, shipping containers. They probably have 6 or 8 of them out at the highway garage. Don't quote me on the number, that we utilize for storage and for the eviction process. Grounds maintenance. Again, a ton of seasonal equipment that is stored outside or jockeyed around depending on the weather or the season. Not enough storage out there. They have a ample amount of shipping containers as well. All their special event signage, all the Christmas decor gets jammed into a sea can. We try to do the best we could with trying to keep, mice and rodents and climate control so things don't get mildew or moldy. But all those are in a storage container for the grounds department. Again, another dry storage or garage or building like Chapman Street could be utilized for that. So there's no shortage of need for the town for a building like this. It's just what is, what is the most important or the highest level of need is up to, Jonathan and you guys. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any of this I could.
And I would say, I think to this point, we can talk about, what exactly just needs to be. What's that? I don't know what that was. We can talk about what. Is somebody's.
Sorry, yes, that was me.
Okay. We can talk
Catch,
about, like we store item X here or B there or C there and what to the fire company and we can have that discussion like forever. I think that's sort of best handled at the staff level, me talking to Chief Trauma with Joe and those kind of things, and maybe even bring in Steve and some of these questions. I think the question before you, I think the storage issue is important. Like, I think on a broad level, like, are we using it as storage or as opposed to some other operational purpose? Because that gets into things like how to the extent to which we have to make modifications for ADA. Obviously, if it's just storage, there's less ADA stuff we have to do than if it's say meeting space. But those are sort of questions more for you. The actual kind of, inch by inch, how things get stored, I think we can handle that at staff level. And so really the feedback, I think, primarily that the PMBC needs on this is just, do you guys have any other ideas for or priorities for exactly what we want to be doing with the renovation, as opposed to the minutia of what specifically gets stored?
Sure, if I may, Mayor, just on this point, I agree with you. I think certainly we don't have the expertise to decide what would be stored in there, but obviously the building being what it is, right, and the statement of need that we transmitted to the commission accounts for these different needs for both the fire department and the town. So we, have a responsibility, having sent that statement of need to the commission, to ensure that, that's a part of the commission's work. So yeah, that's the reason for the question. Thank you. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I have a couple of questions. I mean, not necessarily. Well, and I probably want to hear from the fire department as well. So there are two chairs there. You can both sit. Just from what you said, Joe, I mean, there's an obvious need for a lot more space, probably 10 times or more what Chapman Street can accommodate. That's important for us to hear, to think in the future. But a couple of questions that I have about the current building itself is, and this is just in general, and Steve, you or anyone else can jump in on this. Any vague or estimated timeline where you want to begin, how you want to begin? I mean, I know some of us have already done a tour of the building, actually, a couple of years, 2 years ago, maybe. I know there's a tree growing up through the middle of it. I know that it probably needs there are several things and several needs. But I'm interested in, and I think, are there 2 bays now? And then that side room that has the old fireplace in it. So what are we talking about in terms of square feet? We're not going to build out on it. I'm assuming it's pretty much what the square foot is, what the floor plan is now is what it's going to be, but
So Lauren was requested to get 3 proposals from our on-call architects. Those have been received, I think, short of 1 from a revision we're waiting for to submit to the building committee. The need is important when it comes to the design. When we direct one of these architects, you don't want them to start designing something for one use and it's determined, hey, we're gonna actually use it for this.
Yep.
And they have to change their design and make modifications to account for that design or that use. So whether, if it's a fire truck A, then they want to account to make sure that the floor can handle fire truck A or what have you. So the use is important before the design really kicks off or gets too far along.
But I'm assuming that the footprint will be staying the
It could,
same.
it could grow. It depends on whatever, depends on the directives, I guess.
How
Deputy Mayor,
many,
there's roughly 2,000 square feet and it's not going to change that much. It won't grow by very much. And I mean, I think what I'm hearing here is that the building is going to be used for some sort of storage, whether it be bulk storage or vehicle storage. And I mean, maybe that's what Jonathan, Joe, and the building committee can work through, what's the intent? And again, I wasn't trying to open up a can of worms with the fire department. Again, I'm chair of that building committee, so it's just on my mind. There's a lot of stuff in that building that's got to go somewhere. So it just made some sense to me that at least temporarily, that's where it all goes. But you are the ultimate deciders as well as Jonathan. And actually the day-to-day really probably falls back to Jonathan and his staff of what goes where.
are there are no utilities that are currently on?
There is
There are?
Yep.
Okay. Water and electricity? Or
gas
Gas?
and electricity.
Okay, and, two more questions. One, and, I would invite, folks from the fire department to speak as well. What I can visualize the vehicles, the apparatus that are in there now, or the last time we were there to see, but can you tell us what is being housed there now in Chapman Street in terms of the fire department?
They're coming up.
Well, I just want to be so clear because I see the fire commissioner standing up. The town is the proposing body here. The fire commission, I think, I don't, we also have the animal shelter to get to and we have 30 minutes left. We can wait on that till public participation to get that kind of feedback. I just want to keep this on track. There are right now, the last time we were there was a old pumper truck and a brush truck. In public comment, I think the commissioners can speak to that more, but let's keep it on track here. As again, the town is the proposing body here. And that's, I'm sorry as opposed to the fire department, if that's clear.
I just want to, if I may, so I know that Don and Chris couldn't make it. tonight.
Yeah.
I think the chair of the fire commission is also an advisory member of the commission in the same way that.
No, that's not the case because the town is the proposing body. So if it was a fire department building, you're right, the fire chief and the chair of the fire commission would be they would be ex officio members, but that's not the case here. It's a weird nuance, but I just want to make sure that comes out. So.
And one other quick comment that I will make in terms of time. To date, it's not on the historic registry, and I'm just putting that out there that's farther down the road, but we need to consider that process takes place.
So if you punch up the address does not come up on the registry. It is, it's in a historic district. It's
Right.
referenced, the building is referenced as part of the historic district and contributes to the historic nature of that district. So it's called out as a contributor to the historic district. So it is labeled, or it is in a document, but like if you go to the federal registry.
That specific address.
Kelsey Street, the Kelsey House or the Kellogg House, that comes up as an address. Chapman Street doesn't, but when you do the district, it is identified as a contributor to the district. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And the architects are aware of that and will account for that information.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilman Draco?
Yeah, so tell me if I'm going off track here, but, I know, Commissioner Woods, indicated that right now you're renovating for the short term. And then after, because we've got firehouse company 4, company 3, whatever, and then the long term will be later. I guess from a resource perspective or a finance perspective, are we gonna be going through another renovation? I mean, shouldn't we be renovating for the entire, not short-term, long-term? Shouldn't we be renovating for everything at this point?
Again, what I'm thinking right now is, and what I'm hearing from the council discuss here, is that the building is going to be used for some sort of storage. And it's going to more than likely be vehicular storage. If there's extra room, there'll be some other stuff in there too. But I think it's, you know, obviously fire trucks weigh a little bit more, so we'd have to take that into consideration. Than a pickup truck or utility vehicle that Mr. Salomon uses for his fleet. But the the MRAP, that's probably, if not, it might even be heavier than a fire truck. I'm not quite sure. But yes, we would take that into consideration. If we knew it was going to be, let's say you decided, and Jonathan decided the MRAP is going to be there permanently. Well, we would obviously then work around that. I don't think we're at that point yet. I just don't think we're there.
I just don't want to see two iterations of another renovation coming down I think the more detailed information we can get on what it will eventually be used for before the renovations get too far done would just be better use of resources and money and finances. That's number one. And then number two, and again, this may be getting off of track, but as Mr. Salomon indicated, there's an incredible amount of storage needs in the town. There's limited amount of locations. We are looking at Chapman Street, we're looking at OFI, we're looking at perhaps the K9, whatever. Whose responsibility is it to, I can't envision in my mind looking at it as all these separate projects without somebody looking overall and saying which location, these are all our needs, which locations best suit the storage needs for all of our needs, and looking at it holistically rather than as separate little projects. I mean, we've got locations, we have storage needs, where are they all gonna best fit and meld? And then the building committee should take direction in terms of going for renovations from that. Unless I'm.
Well, so I mean, we can certainly do some sort of like storage analysis, storage needs analysis, either internally or through a consultant. I'm sure we can, further that conversation. I think that we're in this situation right now because we have $350,000 in the CIP for Chapman Street renovation. So we're operating on, based on, that budgeted amount, we're operating on the assumption that we need to renovate this facility, whether it is the critical linchpin or not for the town storage needs. I don't know. I mean, that's not something I can answer. But we have gone down the path of appropriating funds for this purpose. Now, as an aside, this is off topic, but we have 350,000 in that CIP account. I don't think that we could do this whole soup to nuts renovation, even bare bones for that amount. We would need further appropriation. I don't know, just 200,000, that kind of range. And that would need to be a continued discussion too about, at the budget level about whether we want to move forward with this or not. So that decision hasn't been made, and I would wait, those things have to fall into place over the next couple of years.
No, and I get it,
Yeah.
particularly with this, because we do have an actual dollar figure
Yeah.
attached to it, but
Yeah.
I just hope that the building committee works very closely with the town, with Joe and whatever, as these other projects get going. I don't think that the town council can say, well, prioritize which department should go here and which whatever. That to me is falls in the building committee and along with facilities and you, but it's got to be looked at holistically and not project by project by project. That's just my opinion.
So what I'm hearing, and I just asked the full council, would you guys like us to do some sort of full needs assessment? Whether
I
that's,
think, coming out of the department tour that we took of all the various departments, it's clear there's storage needs for basically everyone.
Yeah.
So it's probably not a bad idea, but I don't think necessarily it should be tied to this project personally.
Okay.
I think to Gail's point, that's a bigger holistic issue. I think, sorry, are you all set?
Well, no.
Yeah, I'll
but
let you
I
know
agree, but
before I
it's-
jump into my stuff.
Yeah, it is I don't mean to tie it to this specific project, but I think from my recollection of why the building committee was instituted in the first place is that we needed people in town who had a holistic view of all the facilities or the needed facilities and whatever. And to me, that would belong, as these other projects come into being, to take all that into account rather than, again, just looking at each separately. Somebody needs to have a holistic view.
Mhm. Mhm. Very good. At what point, Steve, I guess I'll ask you, we'll start there. This building was scheduled for demolition at one point, correct?
Company 3?
No, the Chapman
Chapman
Street,
Street.
old Company 3, that building was
Yeah,
on
there's
a
old
list.
Company 3, yeah.
It was on a list for,
It is not, I don't believe that it was ever scheduled for demolition, not that I know of.
okay.
The funding had been appropriated. to-
Yeah, Joe, do you have insight on that?
It was a recommendation,
Okay.
at one point that the council considered demolition. There was a lot of moving parts with that and things that were gonna happen after that demolition took place. And then the council, upon hearing that recommendation, froze it and said, no, we wanna, it's an asset to the building. Let's reevaluate that and, hold on, and they allocated some more funding. That's kind of where it stopped. And I'm gonna say that was close to 2020. I think it was your first year, right? 2021 or 22.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
So it's been, so
It
it's
was
5
never,
years.
it was never on a list saying, yes, it's, it's going down. It was just a recommendation that the town and the fire department worked together on and, was moving forward together with.
And tax dollars have been appropriated for this project for the last 5 years. 2 years? Okay, so there's been tax dollars sitting in the account for the last 2 years to get this done. My position is that we need to start building. I think, I like the idea of looking at the use. I think to Steve's point, and having been there, I think it's a garage and there's some other storage space in there. I think if there's a way we can make it so that it could kind of accommodate whatever those different needs may be, let's go ahead and do it. But I think it's important that we get it off the ground and running so that a taxpayer dollars aren't just sitting there idle. And once we have that figured out, then to Steve's point, Company 4 will be a little farther along. We'll know where that is. And we can see what makes the most sense. Company 4, whatever they come up with, we might not need to have storage space for the fire department there. We don't know yet. But I think at the point for this building is it continues to sit there and not get done. And I think we can argue in circles for years about what's the appropriate use and what's going to be the right use. But I think the longer we wait to do something on it, it's just not going to, I think we have to do something. So I think once it's done and completed, then we can, see where it's at. But I guess my question is about when could we start the project theoretically?
Well, right now the town is soliciting some numbers from an architect. We should have those for our next meeting. And then we need to get your approval to spend the funds and move the project forward. And then it starts. When we have an architect, it starts. It'll take a little while before there's a hammer in the ground, but it starts then, And I want to, if I could just quickly address Councilor Bedreiko's comments, because she made some really good comments. I think the beauty of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee is that you can continue to add. So right now we have 2 separate items, basically, under the domain of that committee. You can add and expand the charge if you want this space needs analysis done. And if that's the direction you and the town manager want to work through the building committee and with the building committee, we don't have any problem with that. And we're here to serve you. We're trying to make your days and nights easier, not harder. That's our goal, right? We're here to do the legwork for you.
We very much appreciate you for that, Steve. Very much appreciate that. I mean, from where I stand, I'm looking forward. I'm glad we're here talking about this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the architects come up with, and going from there. If anybody doesn't have any other comments on this, I'm fine with moving on to item B. Perfect. Move on to item B.
Thank you.
Animal shelter.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
So, as you all know, Connecticut Canine is going out of business and put the land up for sale. It has been where the town for the last several years has stored their dogs that have been taken in. So we're going to lose that ability to do that. So the committee was charged to actually take a look at that building and see if it would suit our needs, which we kind of know that it already does suit our needs. It's bigger than what we need. And without getting into, a huge topic here, the building is roughly 12,000 square feet. I believe the town would need approximately the lower level, which is split in half, 6,000 square feet, to accommodate the space for the kennels for the dogs. And the upstairs could be used for additional storage. So you've had a needs study done on that building, so we know approximately how much it would cost to get it up to code. The building's roughly 55 years old, I think. We did look at another site. I don't think it is smart to move it, my personal opinion. I don't want to speak for the whole committee here, but I think the committee will agree with me. We have a long-term established dog pound and dog kennel down there where people are used to the barking. Try to move that into another area in town where there's, additional residents. I think you're opening up a can of worms. And one of the sites that was picked was the landfill. And there's some issues now with deep that I don't even know that we could actually even build it there in the end. So it appears that this is the best possible use. Obviously, it's going to fall right back into your lap because now you need to negotiate to buy it before we can do anything. And that's a topic that we can discuss at a later point. But if you decide to build a new facility, probably talking at least 2 years, possibly 2.5 years before we could get it up and running. And the police department has given us a figure of roughly $60,000 a year, plus additional labor costs to rent space, and the space is not nearby. So it's kind of nice that this fell into our laps. So as long as the town can negotiate a good sale price on the building, I think it would be a smart move. And you pick up 6,000 square feet of bulk storage. So this would be some of the stuff that Joe had mentioned where, holiday decorations, some other stuff that just is not very heavy. You can get up onto that second floor, which is probably a walk-in level. The first floor is like ground level because it's the way it's built. I personally think that's the best way to go.
All right. Open it up for questions from council. Councilor Capella.
Thank you, Steve. Since the K-9 storage, the grounds are so big and the building is 6,000 square feet, you said?
12,000.
12,000, and we only
Yeah,
need about 6,000?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
need probably a little bit less than 6,000, but that's what the downstairs is.
Is there room, because I know we're gonna have to renovate, is there room maybe to rent out part of that space and maybe make a little bit of income? Because I know it's gonna cost us to, to maintain it every year and have somebody
believe-
work there and.
A good question. I believe that there is. Jonathan, you might want to speak to that. I think you know better. I believe there's somebody in there renting that space now from the original Connecticut K-9 owners.
Well, I think I don't know that they're renting space, but Connecticut K-9 is just operating as they have grooming, training, and boarding. And so, I think to Councilor Capella's point, I think that's a really good point. We could certainly put out an RFP to try to find an operator to do those kinds of services. And then we're just using that, those 10 to 12 kennels in the corner. So that would go a long way to offsetting, our costs, either operating or upgrading the facility for sure. Now, I think the only drawback with that is that it's going to be a challenge to find a long-term relationship, someone we can count on for, 10, 20 years. I could see that, somebody's in operation for a year and a half and then goes out of business. That's the concern I would have, that the permanency of that arrangement, but no question, there's an opportunity to offset our costs.
Councilor Tiniakis.
I remember we talked about this a little while ago. Do we have like a rough figure on how much like remediation and like kind of renovation is gonna be needed to be put into this place if we purchase it?
Yeah, at a high level, Joe can speak to the details. The high level, the number was $503,000. But you know, it's the facility is currently in compliance with state regulations. And those regulations were tweaked 2 or 3 years ago and sort of tighten the screws. The HVAC standards are more specific. How high the walls are is more specific and those kind of things. But the great thing about Connecticut Canine is already in compliance with those regs. The $500,000 is more just to make sure that the building is usable long-term. So it's, you know, new windows, new roof, you know, those kind of things, insulation, those kinds of things to make sure that the building doesn't, you know, deteriorate over time. But there's no reason we can't, you know, pick that, you know, chip away at that over 5 or 10 years. It's not like we have to spend $503 tomorrow.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rada.
Yeah, I know that in terms of acreage, there's quite a bit of space there. Beyond or behind the kennel itself. My understanding is that a lot of that is wetland area. When we're talking about negotiation and any conversations that we've already had, are we talking about just basically where the footprint of the kennel and maybe part of the space in front of where that building is right now?
I believe you would be buying a right of way off of Maple Hill Avenue to get to the site. And then once that line is determined where that site begins, going to the west, you would own from there all the way to the railroad tracks. So it's like 1,700 feet deep. The reason I know that I own a piece of property that is 2 houses away from that, and it's the same thing. It runs 1,700 feet deep, and you are 100% correct. Once you get down to the bottom of that hill, it's wetlands.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Council Gonzalez.
Deputy Rada pretty much asked my question. I wanted to know how much land is it and how much is usable. But it doesn't sound like the whole thing is usable.
Yeah.
But there's adequate space to do what you need to do with it right now for the kennel, right? And that's what we're really looking for.
In terms of, probably this is a question for Jonathan, in terms of, I think you mentioned an RFP for having an operator, but is there any other options with other surrounding police departments that we might be able to lease out space in there for other places to use as a kennel? There's a real regional solution.
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I think the simple answer is yes. There is an adjacent community that doesn't want to, I think, go too far down the rabbit hole of doing their own kennel, but may have interest at the margins and renting space from us. I don't know how much that would be, that would generate like financially. I don't think that would be, you know, tip the needle.
No.
It was sort of whether to do this or not. But yeah, we could have I think a limited partnership. Would you agree with that, Matt and Scott? Yep.
Very good. I understand the predicament on this. I know something kind of has to be done, and I totally understand the point of this is what we're using right now. So it would maintain the status quo for us, which I think is ideal in any situation. It's a little disappointing that we couldn't find another site, but then at the same time, it would have been a lot of spending for a brand new building that doesn't get a ton of use. Back to the other topic, I think, you know, to Councilor Draco's earlier point, I think, you know, here we find ourselves with an option for some more storage, and figuring out, you know, the long-term benefits on that it would be tied into this as well. In terms of building renovation, though, I think it's not a whole lot that we would have to do right away. It's ready to go, and stuff that needs to get done can get done over time as we go. So I think, yeah, I think let's keep having this conversation about it, and I'd like to see a little bit more. Some more options besides just this. I know it makes the most sense, but there's no other choice, there's no other option that we can do. I mean, it just seems, you know, however the cost.
Yeah, I mean, and Matt, do you want to, Matt or Scott, do you want to take this one? Yeah.
We have looked into other options. We've reached out to other communities to rent space from them. Everybody that operates their own kennel is pretty much operating at max capacity and is not looking for, the most we would be able to get is if she closed down temporarily for a week, we might be able to borrow some space from one town, but not on a long-term basis. As far as contracting commercially for space, the best option we found at this point is in Bloomfield. They will take a contract basis in year terms, and it's $60,000 a year for the space that we would need. So we'd be locked into a year contract for $60,000 a year, and we'd have to transport dogs to Bloomfield, which means our ACO is now probably making the trip to Bloomfield a couple times a day. If off hours, any of our officers are now coming off patrol. If they find a wandering dog during their patrol, that's not when ACO is working. That officer is now going all the way to Bloomfield and back with it, which means they're not patrolling and responding to calls in Newington. So we've looked into all those options, and this is where we come down to either building our own or taking over a facility like Mega Canyon.
I'd also point out, like, there's obviously Humane Society, there's the facility, Nancy, that you asked us to look into on, was it Richards, I think? What was that
Right, it's a
called?
rough house.
It's a rough house. And the
rough
concern
life.
is that these places that maybe like private boarding facility where you might leave your dog if you're going on vacation or something. The kinds of dogs that we're picking up, that our ACO is picking up, just don't play nice in the sandbox with the other, more domesticated dogs. So those sort of facilities are reluctant to be used as a dog pound.
A large percentage of our dogs are quarantine dogs.
I was
too.
gonna say,
Right.
quarantine and vaccine.
If we either take them in because they were found roaming and we're trying to find an owner, or we're taking them in because they're on a mandated quarantine due to vaccination status, having a human bite, a dog bite, or anything like that. So you go to a place that's more daycare and, pet boarding, they're not really set up for the type of dogs that we're dealing with.
And then the last thing I would just, and Steve pointed this out, but, originally we thought this idea of, building a simple cinder block, 1,000 square foot cinder block structure on, in a corner of the transfer station, which is, far enough away from any other residential property, so it wouldn't be loud. Doesn't work too, because of the capping agreement we have with Deep, we converted that from a landfill. So we can't really break ground there. And there's no other obvious town-owned parcel that meets those kind of distance and privacy requirements we'd have for.
And like I said, wherever we do build, we're bringing in all the noise associated with it.
Right, it's true. Council Floyd?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just had a question about that $500,000 renovation cost. Does that change really materially like that? I know it's just an estimate, but does it change substantially if it's just for storage needs like cold storage, or if it's like office space, or if the police department uses a floor or whatever? Like, does that change really significantly?
No, most of those are for infrastructure. It's just aging building, so, they had some deferred maintenance over the years.
Understood.
But like Jonathan mentioned, it's certified and running, and it is,
Yeah, we were there.
today.
Yeah.
But when they're doing an assessment like that, they're looking at, well, the furnace's life expectancy is, you got a couple of years left, so they put that down, or the roof life expectancy is where it's at, so they put that down. So it's more infrastructure thing, not design.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Council Gonzalez?
Wild question. We have some space at the OFI building, right? We have some land. Is that,
Yeah, it goes back to what I'm saying. You're close enough to houses or places
how
of
much
work.
noise is really, can't buildings be made so that like they're soundproof, or it's right next to the police department?
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. If you could address it. Matt, you want to address that?
There's requirements for the dogs to have like outdoor run areas.
Yeah.
And they can't just be kept in.
Yeah,
inside the
absolutely.
building all the time.
Absolutely.
So,
But neighbors have dogs.
yes, anybody who's been to Connecticut Canine while they're in operation can tell, like, there is a decent amount of noise associated when dogs are there.
Right. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
It's next to the
Councilor
police
Grego?
department.
The property now is on the market, correct?
That is correct.
So I know, and I agree with the mayor that, all options need to be explored, but I'm not sure what the marketability of it is. Probably not a lot, but what direction do we give I mean, when do we not go and try and make an offer? I guess, I mean, I don't know what direction we're giving anybody at this point.
Well, we don't currently have money in this year's budget for it. That's something as part of the budget discussions that we need to discuss. So, I mean, the timing, you can kind of read between the lines on the timing of a potential offer, if that's the will of council. You know, for when we would do it. I think we'd obviously want to have discussions and, you know, so forth with the owner, but that's a side topic for a later discussion. So yeah, it would probably be early of next fiscal year, if that's the will of council.
That makes sense.
So I guess, you know, my only fear is if there are no other options and there is a buyer, then we're back to square one, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Counselor Tiniakis?
Yeah, really quick. Is there any sort of like statutory timeline that we have to like work within with this building, or are we just trying to do this as fast as possible?
It's literally just if she is able, if the current owner is able to sell it to a developer, and the developer, you know, and that's it. It's just that the free market is the timeline essentially.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to your last point about budget, I think it's, you know, that's where we're at with this project. We have to look at it during budget and see if this is something that we can afford. Whether it's this building or some other building, we're gonna have to find money for it either way. So I think, you know, the timing is good on that. So keep having these discussions. So I appreciate you guys being here and explaining all of this stuff to us and sort of rolling the ball down the hill a little bit to the next point. And I look forward to the next conversation and a little bit more to it. Yeah, go right ahead.
So our people from the Permanent Building Commission. I think need my address 36.
No, you're good. Go right ahead. No.
The public price on this, $1,200,000. And she's valuating that on a $97 square foot basis. And for us to give her, if you decide that 1.2 is too high, you could get an appraisal on the building. That square footage would have to come up to about $138 to make you feel better about yourself. But it's not going to change what she's going to get. That would take her up to $1.7 million. If you closed at $1.2 million and had 500 and some odd thousand come back for the maintenance work that's got to be done. I'm going to get you there, but I think, I don't know what her personal reasons are. It's not for me to pry the commission. Maybe she has money out on it. I don't know what the deal is that you guys would have to have an executive session. Because the family is very sensitive to issues. So, and you'd be able to do that under the Freedom of Information Act, provided you perceive that having a public discussion about it will happen in the process. So I personally would recommend you do this, and I'm not recommending the $1,200,000, but as close as you can reduce it and get it done, because these guys are under a lot of pressure. And I mean, it's nothing they created. You got the state of Connecticut down your throat if you don't do it. I mean, that's the question, you know, and so it's created by statute, this whole process. The only other questions I have relative to this project, and I believe that the town manager cleared it up for me. The Department of Agriculture, the state supervises all this, I'll tell you why. And they have certain policies under entitlement, I think it's 22, that if you go to do an improvement, you have to provide all the flooring designs to the state 90 days before you do the work. 90 days before you do the work. If that statute's been eased up, I don't know, but if it's in place, you're stuck having to go do it pretty quickly, make a decision on this, get the design work done, to get it to the state. Then the state has up to 45 days to approve what you propose to do in that building. So a lot of tight bureaucratic control that I was surprised to see myself, but if I were in your seat, I would find a way of doing it.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. We appreciate you guys coming out and sharing that information. Moving on.
Anytime,
move on to-
Mayor, that you want us back, just schedule the meeting and we'll be happy to attend.
Absolutely. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Thank you, Steve.
Moving back over to public participation on the agenda item. If you'd like to speak in public participation related to this agenda, please step to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Or if you're over Zoom, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. We do have one in Zoom. I'll get to that one first. If you guys, while you guys want to come up. Can you let Ms. Lyon speak, please?
Lines are, you should be free to talk.
Hello?
Yep, you're ready to go, Ms. Lyons.
Okay, I'm losing track here because I'm trying to watch NCTV and I'm on the phone on Zoom. Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. All I can say is you're making this 80-year-old lady's head spin. I keep hearing year after year all the storage needs that we have, and it's just giving me post-traumatic stress syndrome, thinking back to the 3 years I sat in the town hall reno meetings, and that was it. Storage, storage, storage. And here we are 6 years later, and nothing's been resolved. I just wanted to know, too, whether or not the Owens report, or does that address any of the questions that you have here? And there's got to be some kind of master plan. We can't keep doing this. It's like a gerbil in a cage. We're going round and round. I've been following it for 10 or 15 years now, and I can see the frustration in other people's minds as this is going on here tonight. I had hoped that this permanent building committee would bring things together, but it seems to be, in my opinion, just making things even more confusing. But good luck.
Thank you, Ms.
This
Lyons.
Medicare cognitive test, again, is nothing compared to trying to follow what's going on in this town these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. All right, state your name and address for the record.
Brian Whalen, 22 Pebble Drive.
Frank DeMayo, 29 Crown Ridge.
I'm glad Ms. Lyons mentioned the Owens report that came out numerous years ago, which details a lot of the space needs for the town. And I was going to mention that, so thank you, Rose. We're talking about a very tiny little firehouse on Chapman Street. It has 2 very small bays and a room in the back that's about 10 by 20. So not much bigger than a living room. In that building currently is the spare frontline fire truck. The reason why it's in that building is it won't fit in Station 5 on Maple Hill Avenue. So it will not fit in that building. The other vehicle that's in there is a trailer and a pickup truck. In that trailer, it's a first line piece of equipment with a quad that can be used in all sorts of emergencies. Our last 18+ inch snowstorm, that quad could be used for rescuing people out of places that our vehicles can't get to. It's a 4-wheel drive pickup truck. It's a first line piece of apparatus, and it's in a ready state, just like the spare fire truck. There's no other room for anything else in that building. That's all that's in there. And that's all that can fit in there. Nothing else can fit in that building. You take our spare piece of apparatus out of that building because they want to put a senior center bus or a facilities maintenance pickup truck in there. Are you guys going to fund $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 to put a new pump in it when it freezes because it's outside in the cold? Same with the quad. It has water and it has a pump. It can't be frozen. It has a 200-gallon tank on it. We need that in the middle of a snowstorm for a house fire that we can't get one of our main fire trucks to. Block ice isn't going to put that fire out. Those trucks have to be heated They have to be, they're maintained as a first line ready fire apparatus. We can't have a call come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and have to shovel off a foot of snow, or a couple of weeks ago, 18 inches of snow from a fire truck before we go to a fire. That's why they're in heated buildings. There's no other room for anything else. There's a little bathroom and a 10 by 20 meeting room. That's all it is. And yes, this did get started because there was $175,000 put in the budget a number of years back to demolish that building. Gail, I think you remember that. The historical commission came to the Board of Fire Commissioners and asked if we could save that building. And at a commissioners meeting, we voted to save that building. And over the years, a little bit of money has been put in CIP to get this building brought up to snuff. Roof, the exterior painting. And a couple of years ago, we brought it to the attention that we had this money, we wanted to get it started and just fix it up for the neighborhood, make it look nice and presentable as a town building. Everything was going to be status quo. And then within the last few years, this has turned into what it's turned into. Unless you guys have another place to put our fire trucks, we're all yelling about space needs, but unless you're going to kick us out, put us somewhere else and find us another heated building, I don't know what to tell you, because there is nowhere else in our department to put these trucks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. William McCarthy, 206 Churchill Drive. I support both of these proposals. Back 100 years ago when I lived in Elmwood, my dog got picked up by the cops and was dropped off over there on Milk Lane, which was a big piece of steel and stuff like that, which was next to the firing range. The firing range is still there, but the dogs are now kept in a safe environment. I appreciate that. I think we should strongly support purchasing the K9 property and improving it to the point where we can utilize it as a dog pound or an animal shelter, whatever you call it. Then as far as the firehouse, I really don't like the idea of everybody being concerned about storage space. This is an historical building that needs to be preserved. I think that's where we started out the whole conversation. And that whole West Hill area is supposed to be designated as a historical region or zone or whatever it is. I think we have to start looking at that and building on that, because if we don't, Gail was championing that last year, that we need to start identifying some of these buildings that need to be identified and work towards that. So get a new dog pound or purchase the one that we already have and work on fixing or rehabbing the firehouse for $350,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you. Anybody else in the room or over Zoom that would like to speak in public participation related to this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to remarks by councilors and commissioners. Any other additional comments from council or commissioners? Councilor Jacob.
Yeah, no, I agree with the mayor and with the fire commissioners that the money is there. You know, we've got to get started on this building. And as Commissioner Whalen had said years ago when it was slated for demolition, you know, some of us said, no, let's change it to renovation rather than demolition. And I'm glad that we're moving in that direction, and I certainly have confidence in the Permanent Municipal Building Committee that they're going to take the aesthetics as well as the operational needs into consideration when doing it. And secondly, I don't know if this is a place to do it, but there was some mention of the, and I didn't know whether it would be under the purview of the Permanent Building Municipal Committee, but do we want to, is this a place to discuss going forward with getting a overall space needs analysis done, or do we recommend that? Does that go into, or
We could
do we
talk
do that
about,
at
we should-
another
we
meeting?
should, we should talk about that in budget, just so we can make sure we have the funds to do that. But I think the timing is good for that kind of discussion as we're moving into the season. So yeah, I think that figuring out what that is and how we do
Who
that
would be
and who would do it.
charged with it, the facilities or the permanent municipal building? But I think we do need that as stuff is going to be going forward. Right now, like everybody said, we have the money, we have a project, let's work on it. But we do have time, I think, to look at a more comprehensive.
Agreed. And I think it's a good idea to utilize the Owens report too for that purpose as well.
Exactly.
Council report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just add to the points that Councilor Pacheco made, and just thank the commission again for taking some time with us this evening. Thank you, Chairman Woods and members. I know Ms. Lyons' point, this is our first time doing a joint meeting like this ever, right? So there are some kinks maybe that we gotta, work out, right? But the level of stakeholder input that this process provides is really important and is unlike what has happened before in the course of history in this town when we've reviewed different projects. So I appreciate this process. I think it's going well. I think the commission is full speed ahead on both of these projects because ultimately, like has been said a few times, right? The money is there for one project, and if there's going to be an appetite to do another project, we need to move with all deliberate speed to make both of those happen. So thank you, the commission, for doing this great work.
Any other remarks from council or commissioners? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Floyd, second by Councilor Gonzalez. Any discussion on adjournment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned from our special meeting, 7:09 PM. Hang in there, folks, a couple minutes, and we will jump right into, I'll take like a 5-minute recess before the next